Dossett.
Yes.
How are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm
It's good. Okay, so I wanted to have you on just simply because I want to talk about the paper and your time there and we'll just start with, what did you love about it? How long were you there?
Okay, so 5.5 years.
Okay.
So it's 5.5 years working for the paper and then solo reporter for 3.5.
Okay.
So out of the 5 years I was there, 2 years photographer.
So you started as photography?
Started as photography, which is what I love doing, and you know, that was kind of my thing that I love doing.
Sure.
And because I didn't have any experience writing before I became a reporter, and then they transitioned me into being a reporter. And the day I became the reporter, they laid off the other reporter, and then I became the only reporter. And so, so 3.5 years of solo reporting.
Are you technically still there?
Till I have 2 days.
So 2 days.
2 more days, and then I'm done.
So by the time this airs, you won't be there anymore.
I won't be there. So we're good. We can say whatever we want.
Because this doesn't air till after you're gone. So
what do I love? I mean, there's so many. I mean, I love Bartlesville.
Okay.
You know, I'm a big fan of Bartlesville. I got kids, raising kids.
Sure.
You know, my family's been in this community a long time, and I believe in Bartlesville, investing in Bartlesville. And, you know, growing up in a ministry background, it was funny because when I got into journalism, people were like, "Oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult." I'm like, "You should try ministry." I was like, "This is not that hard." Not great pay, a lot of hours, going the extra mile. I'm like, that's just a Monday, you know.
Yeah.
But just all the people that you get to meet, and you get to help people, you know, a lot of times.
So define how did you help people?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times, and that's really interesting, is that people come to you for help, for anything, because they feel like they tried all the normal stance. Let's say they're frustrated with the city, or they're frustrated with the police, or they're frustrated with their boss, or they just feel like, you know, the world is not helping them or taking them seriously, you know. So I get lots of phone calls. I get lots of people reaching out for help, being like, "I don't know what to do, you know, help me. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of," or whatever. And so a lot of times I don't necessarily even write anything. It was just trying to connect them with people that can help them.
Sure.
You know, or like, you know, people would say, "I have a boss and I'm being mistreated. I want you to write about it." And I would always be like, "Look, if I write about it, it's going to cost a lot." This is something I learned the more years I got experience. At first I was like, "Yeah, let's take them down," you know?
Yeah, sure.
But later I was like, it's not always the right tool, you know? Like sometimes it's like, hey, there's some other things that we can do before
be inflammatory.
Yeah, before I just put them on blast, and that's not fair. Yeah. So, you know, it's just like getting them connected, helping them work through the process, or getting people answers. I mean, there's just a lot of times people just want information and they don't know where to find it. And so a lot of times just pointing people to the right information. And, you know, so just being able to meet people, and then when you can help people, it's amazing, you know, and get people. A lot of times people feel like, you know, they're not getting the justice they deserve. There's a lot of that. And so when you can help bring that about, or expose some things, you know, like the price tower, you know.
I thought we'd talk about that just because we'll get there though.
We'll get there. Well, we can get into that, and that's kind of, So it was an amazing job, but also horrible at the same time.
So there was the good. Now, what was the bad? What was the bad?
So the bad is that when I make a mistake, it's amplified.
Okay.
So,
like, give us an example.
If like an actual example of a mistake I made? Sure. Okay. Sure. Early in my career, I wrote about a city councilor taking their kids to Hooters. So, and it was during the drag queen debate.
Yep.
And basically, he had made a comment at a city council meeting that, the drag shows are not family friendly or whatever. Sure. And he had taken the his son's basketball team to Hooters, and it was basically, well, then what does he consider family friendly? That was the juxtaposition that I was being pressured into writing. And so I got...
So when you, so you just said you were being pressured into writing. So
yeah,
help me understand, because we're in an incredibly conservative community.
Yes, we are.
Bartlesville is one of the most conservative, and I would even say a Christian conservative towns in Oklahoma. And if it's that way, I mean, in the idea of the marketplace, and the idea of capitalism, you put out a product that is going to get the most results, right?
Yes, yeah.
Why does it seem that the Examiner Enterprise is incredibly liberal?
Well, I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why it seems that way. And one would be that it's not owned by anyone local, right? So there's no newsroom here. There's no local presence. So it's owned by a large company, and they are making policies and decisions that are for the whole breadth of the United States. So they don't do this community is like this, so we need to be like this, or this community is like this. They are making cookie cutter decisions. So they want it to work for everybody.
Okay. So you were back, sorry, and I'm pulling a Trump, just jumping back and forth, ADD in here, sorry.
Go for
it. So back to, you were pressured to write this piece.
Yes. So this is how it comes about. So the tip came in basically of, look at this, here's this evidence. This is, city councilor said this publicly, which I knew. And then here's this thing about taking these kids to this restaurant. Yep. And so then it was like, how do I don't want to write this. It doesn't feel right in my spirit is the way I would say. But then it's like, and it's not like pressure you have to do it, but it's like, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be holding people in power accountable, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you need to do. and I understand the logistics and the reasons why I had the right to report on. It was fair game, right? Public figures are fair game when it comes to things like this. If it was just random person on the street doing it,
be a different story.
Different story.
Sure.
So I understand their arguments of, well, there's no one else and it's just me. Yeah. There's no one else in the newsroom. And so
you get to be thrown under the bus.
And so I wrote it, and I regret it ever since. Because, and the reason why, and I understand it, I was allowed to, and it was fair game and all this stuff, but it has my name on it. Yep. And forever, my name will be on that piece. Sure. It will always exist. Andy Dossett wrote this.
Well, so would you say you would want to say, I apologize for that?
I did. It's Trevor. I'll say it, and as
Trevor is a friend of mine. So
I told him.
He's actually sat in one of these chairs.
Yeah. So it was a couple years later, and he was very upset about it, which I get why. And I went to him and I apologized. I cried when I was talking to him because it'd been, festering for years, sure. And of regret. And he was very, honest. He was great. He just was like, it's okay. He did not hold a grudge against me. Good. And it was really good. And now me and Trevor get along great. But it's just so there are stories that I've written that, sometimes in the heat of the moment, you're like, yes. And thinking that it's going to be for the good. But in the end, you're like, I feel terrible. And you can't take it back. That's the other thing. When I put something out there,
it's like that old youth group analogy with toothpaste. You squeeze the toothpaste out, and you can't put it back in the bottle.
I can't put it back. So that is the other hard part. And that's why, as I got more years of experience, I was more cautious to be putting out something so harmful that could cause harm. And recent very recent example, in November, I wrote about a assistant coach here in town that got a DUI. And I didn't want to do that, but that was one of the final straws because there was a greater push to report on crime because it gets more clicks, and I didn't want to report on crime. And they're like, nope.
It's fascinating.
You have to do it.
It's fascinating to me that negative news gets, because ultimately they do want more clicks.
Oh yeah, that's what they want.
They want the clicks.
That's all we talk about.
And that's what it's click driven.
Yes.
And this is what I try to I tried to communicate to people for years, because I told people, if you just don't go to the website, and eventually they stop getting the clicks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They would put certain people out and would write certain articles that would generate outrage in the community.
Yeah.
Like there were certain things that people would write. I think of the lady at the church, whatever it's called over there. Disciples.
Oh, Kelly Becker.
Yeah. She would write certain things that just would cause people to go through the roof, including me. And I just told people, don't click the link. Don't read it, because it's just going to inflame you. It's just going to make you mad.
Mm-hmm. Don't
read it. Like I've been on this push for the last 6 months out of Philippians chapter 4 of the idea in verse 8. He says, finally, brothers, whatever's good, whatever's wholesome, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's commendable, whatever's excellent, whatever's worthy of praise, think about these things. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately what we think about is the direction our spirit's going to go. And if we're constantly thinking about carnage and chaos, because that's what drives the news.
Yeah. It is very much what is getting clicks, where's our traffic coming from, what are the impressions, it is, we have meetings where we're discussing, okay, well, this article didn't perform well, and it'll be something that is very important for Bartlesville and Bartlesville citizens to read, Yep. And they're just like, well, it didn't, not many people viewed it, so we're never writing about that subject again.
Even though it was important for the community.
Even though it was important for the community.
So let me, okay. In the possibility of being considered inflammatory, mm-hmm. would it be smart for somebody that has a capitalistic mindset to have another alternative local media source that's housed with somebody that lives in the community?
Well, so you have the radio station, which is owned by the Potters.
Potters,
but a radio is a different beast.
Yes.
Like let's be honest, like radio versus print journalism.
That's what, and that's the reason I didn't really say anything about them, because they're very, the Potters are very good dear friends of mine. So
yeah.
I know their values. I know where they stand, and so I'm not. But I'm thinking from a newspaper standpoint.
Yeah, as far as
there are certain people in Bartlesville that love the newspaper.
There are,
because it's a newspaper.
It is, yes.
And
you're not wrong. Like there is a gap, mm-hmm. a void that could be filled with a locally owned newspaper in local hands. Because you can offer fair news that pushes the agenda forward, that brings the conversation,
mm-hmm. and listen,
while taking.
I'm not saying the idea of not holding certain.
Yeah, no.
Or because let's just be honest. The majority of people in Bartlesville were not pro drag queen stuff.
No,
at all.
No.
But the way the paper pushed it out.
Yeah, the reporting about it. Yeah,
it made it look like Bartlesville was in favor.
Yeah, I could see that.
Weren't. And that's the thing that was, for me personally, as a Christian, I saw that and it frustrated me. And that was one of the reasons I offered to write for them for a while.
Yeah, you did.
And they didn't like.
Eventually, you were let go. Yes,
they let me go.
They did.
They didn't like me, which that's their prerogative. They own that thing. So,
yeah.
So back to the question of what did you not like about being?
The old saying is, don't shoot the messenger.
Yes.
And there were often times I got shot. Sometimes I deserved it. I will admit, like sometimes I did deserve it, you know, because that's just the name of the game. And I don't mind taking responsibility for when I deserve it. But it's the times that I got shot when I really didn't deserve it, it was hard. You know, it's very difficult. And so I didn't love that. I didn't love the lack of support, me being the only one in the newsroom. You know, if it was a team of 3, then you can kind of share that burden, you know, like, okay, we can take the heat, take turns. Sure. But it was just all me all the time. You know, I was the complaint department. And then the other thing is that since we're connected to 200 papers across the United States, they would share content, and there would be a lot of content that was not relevant to Bartlesville being published and shared. And then people are yelling at me, Andy, why did you write that? And I'm like, I didn't write it. You know, and
the name. My name's
and so it doesn't matter what was published. If it was published in the Examiner Enterprise, it didn't matter who wrote it or who owned it or where it came from. It was me, you know, and I understand because I was the face of the paper. But I was just a lowly reporter. I wasn't like the publisher or the editor, you know.
And the editor didn't even live in town.
No, the editor does not live in town. We hadn't had an editor live in town since 2022, maybe?
Wow.
2022. So the current editor lives in New Mexico.
Which, I mean, New Mexico's a hyper-liberal state too.
So yeah. I mean, and the other thing is that majority of the people, and I would say this, the majority of people that are in journalism, probably they lean left, you know?
Which I find fascinating that like, that's the one thing I will say about the conservatives that I think we suck at, is we're not very organized, and we don't have very many creative bones in us.
Yeah. I think there's a,
well, I'm trying. I want to fix that. I want to try to change that.
No, I get. I think, in the idea that I think, you know, a majority of journalists are left leaning, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that when you are exposed to a lot of different viewpoints, you know, like as a journalist, you're talking to people from, you know, CEOs, congressmen, all the way down to people living in project housing, you know, you see it all. And you also see a lot of the system and the when it breaks down, you know, you're dealing with, like, people call you know, we do get the calls on the best day because people are excited about it, they want to share something, but a lot of times we get calls on people on the worst day, you know? And so you're exposed to a lot more points of view. And so that from my, you know, my observation is the more points of view you are experienced or exposed to, you are typically lean more left. But I wouldn't say necessarily like conservative versus liberal, but just more in the sense of you're just more probably pro social programs, you know, like more of...
Which is just, I mean, cause like I said, it would make sense if we lived in a community that had a bent towards those things, right? Mm-hmm. But you live in an oil town that is, I mean, one of the reddest counties in the state, has more churches on every corner than you can shake a stick at. In fact, I just saw it on Instagram where another one, I mean, there's a house church that just is launching in town. And so, I mean, we got all these churches that are here, and I'm just like, why do we not have a news source that puts out content that's pro Bartlesville, like that talks about the content of whatever, you know, whether it's water, whether it's streets, whether it's arts, whether it's whatever. Why do we not put something out or have somebody that's doing something that has a conservative bent? It's just mind-boggling to me. And maybe this is an opening for somebody that sees this and says, you know what, I'll do it. And maybe that'll happen. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I know it takes a lot of money. I've looked into it. It's so expensive.
It is. I mean, trying to get because you got to get advertising.
Advertisements, and you got to hire someone to sell ads so you can keep the lights on, and then you need somewhere to print it. Mm-hmm. It is doable. I mean, people have done it in the past. I mean, there are newspapers popping up because large organizations were buying up all these small mom and pop newspapers all over the United States. That's what happened. And now we're returning back to local control,
Which I think is the best thing. I think local control is the best because...
Hey, my friends, Caleb here. If you're looking for financial guidance you can actually trust, Revo Financial in Bartlesville, Oklahoma is a great place to start. Whether you're planning for retirement, growing your investments, or simply trying to make wiser financial decisions, the team at Revo Financial takes the time to understand your goals and walk with you every step of the way. There's no pressure, there's no gimmicks, just clear advice and a commitment to helping you build a stronger financial future. Learn more and connect with the Revo Financial team at revofinancial.com. Hey, my friends, if you're passing through Copan, Oklahoma, make sure and stop by Copan Restaurant and Truck Stop. It's a place for great food, hot coffee, and friendly faces that make you feel right at home. Whether you're a local or a trucker on the road, it's a stop you can count on. Copan Restaurant and Truck Stop. Give them a call, 918-532-4666. Copan Restaurant and Truck Stop. Good food, good people in Copan, Oklahoma.
Nobody knows your town better than the people who live in it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. We get into a lot of arguments about that. When I try to explain, like, look, that's not going to work. I'd be like, hey, that's not going to work in Bartlesville. I know. And I often get treated, it was funny because I'd often get treated because the majority of the reporters aren't from the towns they're reporting in. They're like, they got hired, they got moved to this town and they're reporting on it. And I'm like, I've lived here my whole life, And so I'm trying to explain how I understand the populace of Bartlesville. And they're just being like, no, you don't understand. We know what we're talking about. And I'm like, that's not going to fly. And every time I told them, it's like, this story is not going to either, A, it's not going to do well, it's going to make everyone mad, or no one's going to read it. They're like, no, it's going to work. And it would never work.
And so, was that just a consistent thing that always came out that it didn't fly?
It was like when I was reporting on restaurant violations. So I'd have to report every month. I was required to report on.
Oh,
restaurant violations.
I have a friend who watches this podcast, and she would text us and be like, "I am not eating at so and so."
I think it's fair to say, like, hey, it's good to get that information out there, but the information that's provided from the Oklahoma Health Department, there's zero context. There's no information.
I would see restaurants post that thing, would put stuff on Facebook, be like, wait a second.
Exactly. Because they're just getting these they'll get these little handwritten things. Hey, you're doing a great job. I noticed a few crumbs on the counter. Make sure you get that cleaned up. Well, in the system they mark, this place is filthy dirty. Like, there's no difference between a crumb on the floor and the whole place being covered in rats, and to the Oklahoma Health Department in the system. There's no difference. And so I'm required to, and so there's some months I didn't do it, because I only did it the months that they reminded me and were like, hey, I need this tomorrow. And if they forgot to tell me when, I wouldn't do it. I just pretend like I forgot.
Oops.
I was like, I got busy, because I was doing everything I could not to do it, because I was like, this is not.
Because it literally harms. Listen, let's just be honest. Every restaurant is going to have some dirt somewhere.
Well, that's the reason for the inspections, is so they can come in and it's just a little general oversight. Right. But the thing is if you look through, at no point, when's the last time you knew of the health department shutting down a restaurant in Bartlesville?
The last time I remember one was China Star, and that was when I was in high school.
Yeah. So it's not like we have an epidemic of problems. Right. And wasn't being reported about in the paper, and they still going. It's not like everyone was getting sick and no one knew why. There's no oversight.
That's a click.
Yeah.
That's the one that people will click.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh my God, I want to see if my favorite restaurant's on the list.
Exactly. And that was the idea. That was just, what is going to give us clicks?
So wild.
I described it as basically they would just, it's like playing roulette with the news.
Here's the thing that I found fascinating, because when I used to write for you guys, you used to tell me, Caleb, when you write, we get more clicks on your articles than most anything else. Sometimes
they were doing well. Yeah, they did really well.
And it fascinated me that if they were genuinely concerned about clicks, I mean, I'm writing about things that people are interested in reading in, obviously, because you're getting a ton of clicks. Now, I know that not everybody agreed with it, and that's fine. It is what it is. This is welcome to America.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, we're shutting it down because, he's misogynistic was the word.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean, you're right.
After that article, I'll just tell you, I had people texting, like DMing my wife on social media and asking if she was okay. Blink twice if you're in trouble.
Yeah, I saw I saw the comments. Trust me,
dude. I was like, this is bananas, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, if you look at the decorations in the house here, I'm not in charge of decorating my house. I'm not in charge of the decor and the way our house looks. My wife
does it.
She runs the show here for that, but I'm fine with that. And so
it's similar to we had a reporter in another town that was in Oklahoma, and it was a very small town, and they had 1/10 of the population that Bartlesville has, but they were required to get the same amount of views that I was.
That's wild.
And I was required to get the same amount of views as a town 4 times the size of us, right? And so these are the monthly metrics. So that was, they put that out there, and eventually they let the other reporter go because, like, oh, you're not meeting your goals. First of all, they're impossible to meet because they're required to get it was, and like they had to get, and like they were chugging along, but there's a very small population that they're reporting for, but they set the same goals for every town under a certain size. It doesn't matter if it was 3,000 people or 100,000 people. Everyone's the same.
That's wild.
And so they have these metrics, and often I didn't meet these metrics because is more than the metrics I was required is more than what Bartlesville could sustain.
Sure.
Right? Like Bartlesville's pretty saturated. Anyone who's going to read the Examiner is reading the Examiner.
Yeah, they're diehards.
Yeah,
it's like there's nothing you could say.
There's nothing I could say to
say, hey, you shouldn't read this.
Right.
Click. I mean, as much that's because I would say that. I'd be like, you guys complain about the paper.
Yeah.
If you'd stop going to the paper and reading the paper, you wouldn't have to gripe about it anymore. But they're like, because then the double-edged sword is, well, where are we going to get our news from? And I'm like, why are you getting your news from there? First of all, but that's just neither here nor there.
So they eventually let that reporter go because, hey, they're not meeting the metrics, right? But at the same time, it was like, well, I wasn't always meeting the metrics. Why do I get to stay? And I think it's just one of those things where you mentioned, like, is it, they were very clear. It's all about clicks. It's all about clicks. Yep. But then there's always some type of hidden metric that or
an agenda,
you could argue it's an agenda or something.
I would absolutely agree or argue that it's an agenda.
I mean, I will say this. I'll be honest. Like now, at no point was I ever. They told me, "Hey, we need to report on a certain thing from a certain angle or a certain slant or a certain thing," but there could have been times where there was, if you read between the lines, you could pick up something.
So they were very smart about how they said it, but the goal was, we want you to report something from a left-leaning perspective, but we're not going to say it out loud.
I'm trying to think. If they've ever said any reporter from a left-leaning perspective. Okay. I mean, the goal was always to be fair and balanced, and there were times.
At least that's what they would say.
That's what I was told.
Okay.
And there were times that I got in trouble for my writing, because, as I always say, I'm all gas and no brakes when it comes to writing. Like I just go forward. I don't. Yeah. I'm just trying to get everything out, and then I'll let the editor figure it out.
You fix my writing.
Yeah. So I'm just like, or if I've gone too far, or. Because it doesn't take much to go too far. And I think
I do know.
I think it's mostly because when you're in a town with, overwhelmingly conservative, right? Because I'll tell you, so here's the thing. The Democratic Party here in Bartlesville threatened, or certain members of the Democratic Party in Bartlesville kept threatening to sue me because I wouldn't take their candidates seriously when I reported on the news. Because when Josh Burkeen would come to town, I would write about it.
Yeah.
You know, when the sitting congressman came to town, I would write about it. Well, that's news.
Yes.
Right? But when one of their Democratic candidates was hosting a meet and greet, I wouldn't write about it. You know? So they were mad at me. You know? I think that when you're surrounded in a town of conservatives, the people that are in charge are conservative, the leaders are conservative, and so when someone does something wrong, it's probably going to be a conservative.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I'm writing about, and then that, because oftentimes like, well, why don't you ever write about when the liberals do something wrong? I'm like, well, they're not in charge. They're not in power, you know? And so it can come across very slanted. I can't remember a time where someone told me my writing was too conservative or too liberal. So, but there's definitely
I'm glad to hear that. That's because that was one of the questions that people would always ask was, why doesn't Andy ever write about the Democrats? He always seems to write about the Republicans.
Yeah.
And now we know why.
Yeah. It's because, you know, I could write about the Washington County Democrats, but they don't have even enough people to fill all the precinct chairs. And they don't necessarily always have someone like some people are filling multiple roles because there's not as many volunteers. There was one time I did write about it, and it was funny because I wrote they did a event and they had pizza and beer. That was my headline or something. Because they did. I mean, because I literally the night before I went to a Republican event and I wrote that they hosted this thing, and then the next night it was a Democratic event and they had pizza and beer, and I think that was my headline. So
it's a frat party.
Yeah, and the other bit of criticism, I was required to cover Pride, right? That was the thing. So it was, and that was very much you need to cover this.
Sure.
And towards the end, I was like, do I have to? What more can I write? I was like, there's nothing more I can write here. Why do we need to keep covering this event? I hardly cover other public events like that, you know? But yet Pride was always well, we need to cover this. And one time I got criticized for writing too generous, or I made it sound really nice and fun and great event. And the only thing I can say is look, I just try to write it from the perspective of what it was like to be, what was it like for people who wanted to come to be there? You know, with the flags and flying and people giving hugs and, you know.
Did they ever give you a reason as to why they were pushing that particular article to be written about so often? Did you ever ask, why am I having to write this?
It's because it represents a marginalized group whose freedoms are under attack, I think is the general idea.
And see that in my mind, who you want to have sex with? It's a podcast, so I don't care.
Okay.
Who you want to have sex with, it's not a, barring being a sicko. You can have sex with whoever you want, and nobody's I can promise you, there's nobody up at night going, you know what? All I'm thinking about. Maybe there are some crazy people that are doing that. But I always used to say, if I put out, listen, we're going to have a big rally downtown. We're going to have a parade. Caleb, what is your parade going to be about? We're going to put a parade out. We're going to put banners. We're going to have everybody out. I'm going to dress my kids up, and we're going to have popcorn, and we're going to have my popsicles, and we're going to have bands and music, and we're going to do. I was like, okay, what's the theme of the event? That I get to have sex with my wife.
Well,
everyone would go.
It sounds like a really fancy wedding.
Well, yeah, it'd be blunt. You'd be like, why the hell are you doing that?
Right.
And that would be the question, right?
People probably ask that question. Yeah.
And I would say, you have a right to ask that question. And people immediately go to, well, we're marginalized.
Yep.
I don't think you are, because from the standpoint of who you have sex with, let me just be frank. I don't care. I care less. Like,
so I understand that perspective, and I think that is, you are offering a point of view that a lot of people in Bartlesville have.
Exactly.
So
the majority of people think are not. I don't care, conservative, Christian, I don't care. We're not sitting around going, you know what? I wonder if my neighbor is going to have sex at some point this week. I'm like, nobody's thinking that.
But the what I would say is,
and if they are, that's weird.
What the LGBTQIA to, or I guess it's two LGBT, the LGBTQIA plus.
Sure.
This group, this society. What I've observed, and I've spoken to a lot of them, when I recovered on them, when the We're Here, HBO was coming, and
which I feel like that was a complete trap. The whole thing is.
There's a lot of people that think that too. I've heard a lot of people say that, but speaking with them, what I see and observed, and they definitely feel. So I would say that. So I'm trying to think how was the best way to describe this. So I think there was a while where the progressive movement was gaining steam, and it was happening because the pride events were happening in Bartlesville for years, and there were people who would be like, roll their eyes, and be like, but oh well. But then things changed. I think. Conservatives felt pushed too far, maybe, and it was enough was enough.
I can, as a conservative, I would say yes, and I think
straw that broke the camel's back.
The straw that broke the camel's backs for me is just the fact that having grown men in fishnet dancing in front of children. I think that's weird and gross, and so I'm like
that. A lot of people have that perspective.
I'm like that.
Yes.
Listen, I talked to one of the LGBT people, and they have a grandchild. And I said, would you bring your grandchild to this event? Because I asked that question. And they said, absolutely not, I would not. And I said, why would you not do that? He goes, I don't want my grandchild to see that. I said, exactly the point. And they're part of the LGBTQ group.
Yeah, and I think for a town like Bartlesville, it is a bridge too far.
100%.
What I will say is that event definitely is more than just about who they want to have sex with. And the reason why I'll say this is because this pride, this event, it's really not, it doesn't feel like it's no longer about homosexual pride, right? I think I don't know the history that well. I think that's how it started.
That's what they would like you to think.
But now
it's from my perspective.
Right. Now it is a catch-all. It is a catch-all for anyone who doesn't feel like they belong. And we live in a world that ostracizes people, and you get online and you feel more disconnected.
Sure.
And so,
I think that's the problem is social media.
Right.
Like this podcast will probably generate people going, I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, well, if you sit down and have coffee with me, like this is the thing that cracks me up. I have a really good friend, and because when I used to work for a company here in town, there was a large group of LGBT people that worked there, and they would always say, well, Caleb's the one who hates us. He hates us. And she would look at them and say, have you ever talked to Caleb? Have you ever asked Caleb if he hates you? Well, no, I just know he does. Right. How do you know that? Well, because he is a preacher, or he was a part of this event. And she goes, you should sit down and talk to him. And I've not had one person that's willing, well, I take that back. One person has been willing to sit down and just have coffee with me and say, what's your perspective? In fact, one of these people, she looked at me and she said, you know that I'm gay? And I said, yeah, I do. She goes, you hate me, don't you? I said, absolutely not. I said, quite to the contrary, I love you. I genuinely care about your soul.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she goes, oh, like, okay, well, it was one of those moments where she just was like, oh, well, okay, I thought you hated me. I was like, that's the perspective drives reality. And I don't hate anybody.
Right.
I hate, in fact, the Bible tells us very clearly, we're to love one another. Now, the idea of love in certain people's books is love equals you accepting everything about me. And that, my wife doesn't accept everything about me. Like, my wife thinks I'm crazy sometimes. Yeah. And guess what? She still loves me. And so I think that there's this idea that love is, we have a really horrible view of love as a society. And I that's on all spectrums. That's not just in one camp. We have a horrible view of love.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, I get that. And for me, it's just, from talking with them, it was just, I think for them, it was, this is the one day what we get where we feel like we find other people, kindred spirits, who feel that they're disconnected from society,
which I find
who
funny
feel
there's more than just a day. Like, they have an entire month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Bartlesville.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
but I mean, it's there all month. I used to work for a company and literally flags everywhere.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a Christian flag hanging on the cubicle. I just didn't. Maybe I should have. I don't know.
You might get in trouble for that.
I probably would have gotten in trouble for that. I've had conversations with people that work for another large corporation here in town. They've got all these networks, pride networks for this, and this network for this, network for that. And
well, I mean, in the end, I think those groups have really, they had a lot of infighting, and they kind of tore themselves apart in Bartlesville, because we didn't have a pride event last year, or 2025 there was none, due to concerns, and and the city was the 2024 pride event, they shelled out around $30,000 to provide safety for the event, because of all the threats and that they were getting. And I mean, it is a very difficult thing, and it was interesting, being in it, because like one of the things I've told people is that I'm not pro LGBTQIA. I'm pro people, and I'm pro people's freedoms, and everyone should have the same freedom, level of freedom. And so I never wanted to be more pro for one group than another group. I wanted to be pro every group, every person's freedom. And so but when you're, as the newspaper reporter, it's hard, because you get into this mindset of, you want to protect people, and if you feel like people are under attack, you want to try to protect them, and when you have a minority group in Bartlesville and you feel like they are being attacked, you want to be like, you want to do your best to try to help and protect the people, but you also, at the same time, you want everyone to be treated equally, and you don't want to go out of your way to help them more than the other group. So it's difficult, you're put into a hard position that I never thought I would be in, and I want to be loving and caring to all people.
Sure. Well, that's back to what I was saying. As Christians, we're called to love human beings.
Yeah.
And we're called to every human being is made in the image of God.
Yeah.
Like, we all carry the Imago Dei. And so you have innate value because you're a human being. And so there's no mindset as a Christian husband and a Christian father and a preacher, I don't sit around and go, I think this person is less valuable because of their sexual preferences. I don't think that. I just think that and listen, I'll even go as far as to say, from a biblical worldview, that we have to be very cautious, because the Bible's very narrow when it comes to even heterosexuality. Like, there's very clear guidelines from God's word on how that works. And so we have to be really cautious, because people say, well, Caleb, all you do is want to jab at gay people. I'm like, no, I'll take shots at everybody, including myself. If there's sin in my own life, I need to repent, and I need to turn from those and those things, and I need to run to Christ as hard and as fast as I can, because that's the only place we're going to find life.
Yeah. I see it like we live in a democracy, or constitutional republic. Thank you. And we have a democratic process, right? So we can vote. My concern has always been, if, Bartlesville is a Christian population, Oklahoma is, and if we are voting from purely from a Christian perspective, and the dangers can become is that if one day Christian is in the majority voting population, then someone can impose other religious beliefs. And it's a dangerous, slippery slope if you're purely coming from a Christian voting perspective where you say, I know that you're not a Christian, but I still need you to be beholden to Christian beliefs. Because just as quickly as those get voted in, the opposite get voted in.
Well, we're seeing that kind of stuff happen even in New York.
So I think it's just, that's the danger. So ideally we set up this system so that wouldn't happen. Right? Ideally, we set up the system so we could be free from religious persecutions. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you've read the Bible, it doesn't end well for Christians for a while, you know.
Well,
and like we win the war, but we lose some battles.
We lose some battles, and I mean, well, and this is what I'll say, because yes, there are. If you look through the scriptures, there are moments in time where Christians do get knocked down. Mm-hmm. But it seems like a superpower for us. Like when we get persecuted, like if you look at the church in China or Iran or all these persecuted nations, like you go out talk to the folks at VOM, like it's like a superpower for us. The church in Russia is a juggernaut. Like it's growing leaps and bounds. Like it seems like when Christians become prosperous, we get lazy. And when we become lazy, we're not salt and light. Salt and light that's what Jesus called us. We're to do specific things with salt and light. Salt preserves, right? It's a flavor. It's an additive. It's a flavor. It staves off rot. If you put it over meat in the open marketplace,
right?
It keeps it from going bad. Light dispels darkness. I mean, we have some lights in here that push back the darkness. If we turn off all the lights, there'd be no light here. But these lights are pushing back the darkness. Those are the idea, is because every political commentator has said this in the last 2 years. It feels like we're in a spiritual battle. Well, yeah, because we are.
I mean, we always are.
Exactly. We've always been in a spiritual battle.
Right.
The scripture is very clear. We don't wage against flesh and blood.
Yeah.
We wage against principalities, and so behind all the flesh and blood fights, there's a principality behind it. And there's a fight behind it, and the question is: are Christians going to stand on the foundation of God's word, love people enough to call them to repent and trust Christ for their joy? Because this is what we've done as a community. I think not just Bartlesville, but I mean just as a Christian community, we're really good at saying, don't do those things, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Historically, Christians are really good at don't do that.
Right.
But what we ought to be doing as well, yes, there needs to be a balance, but there also needs to be, here's what Jesus has called you to. It's better.
Right.
Like what he's called you to is better. And it's for your joy, not for your begrudging submission. Like he's not up there going, do it now or I'm going to squash you. Like I got a better way for you. Come over here, try this, look at this, watch this, and so that's the idea. Sorry, that's what I'm on. I think what happens when I don't have notes.
Yeah, I know. I think those are all good things, and I've always said that the danger becomes because Bartlesville people, they got very focused on that group of people,
Sure.
And I always said, Christians need to have our own house in order before we start
100%. I don't disagree.
So.
100%. I think there has to, but here's what.
So that's the danger.
I heard a guy say this one time.
Because I think it could become a distraction, and that's the problem. When you're so focused on what other people are doing, everything like that, that's when
it's back to the clickbait, right? It's back to all the bad stuff.
Yeah. Look at this.
Right.
Distraction.
Click this. Push the button and watch this. Read this, because that generates money for somebody that's in New Mexico or New York or wherever else. From this.
Right.
And we're sending the money out of our own city. And I heard a preacher in Texas say this one time, that we don't hear about the planes that land safely every day. Like we just don't hear about those. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of planes that land safely every week.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few that maybe don't. And we hear only about the ones that crash and burn.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a saying in the news that I learned is that when a dog bites a man, that's not news, but when a man bites a dog, that's news. So, I mean, yeah, so I get it. And I really, that's why, going back to things I love writing about. I wrote about a woman who turned 104. Yes. Wrote about her birthday, and I spelled her last name wrong, and I apologize. I was in my notes, and I was like, later they caught it. I did fix it, but I did, because it's just, that happens.
Sure.
I'm dyslexic.
But
those are the stories, like, I love writing because you get to tell these amazing stories. And, like, every single person on this earth has value.
Yes.
And that's the best part about my job, was showing the value of every single person.
100%.
And I wish I could do that all the time.
And I will say that's one thing that I did see from you, is that you wanted that you and I have had coffee. You and I, you've sat in my house more than once, and we've had these conversations. We're just recording this one.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically like our conversation.
This is literally how we talk, and it's funny how that works. But it's you do care about people.
Yeah.
Like and as long as I've known you, you've always cared about people.
Yeah, I do.
And I've known you for almost 25 years now. No.
Yeah.
Shoot it. The Rock started in 1998, right?
Yeah. So
that was the first time I ever played music was with a band. Remember Vessels of Mercy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Played at that on the outdoor.
Oh yeah. Outside
on the bleachers.
Yeah, because we couldn't get meat in the building because we didn't have the up to fire code. It was Lisa Beeman. She eventually let us back inside. But that was a great time. But and that's what it comes down to, like, when covering liberal sides or the progressive side or the pride, is like, I always want to try to show we definitely don't see eye to eye, but these people still have value, and I always want to try to find common ground with people. And if we can see each other as equals, then we can come together.
And if we could do more of this,
what
we're doing right here, as opposed to keyboard warrioring, I think that we could solve so many more problems. In fact,
of course.
Some of the problems that I had with the whole pride stuff, when I sat down with some of those folks and had a conversation, you know what? Not one time did they get in my face and call me names and say that I was a chauvinistic pig and all these things. Right?
Yeah,
they didn't say all those things.
No,
they were like, "Hi, Caleb," and
I mean, that's the problem with, like, being online, and when people would be upset with newspaper writing, I'd always respond from my own Facebook name, because I wanted people to know this is a human. But I think, coming back to it, there's just too much money to be made getting people angry and keeping people from coming together. Like, it's just, people make too much money doing it, and so there's no incentive to not.
If people could just get past their own noses and realize that these corporations are doing all this to get money off of them, and if we saw that, hey, they're making money off Caleb and Andy fighting.
Yes.
Like, somebody else is making money off Caleb and Andy fighting. Well,
I wish I was making money.
I was like, why can't we make money off of
of coming together?
Coming
together
and doing things in a unified voice that says, I want to make Bartlesville better.
Yeah.
I want to, as my dad used to say this, leave a place better than you found it. That was one of my dad's, like, mantras, even as a city manager. He was like, I want to leave the place better than I found it. I want to leave people better than I found them. Mm-hmm. And that's my mindset, is I want to leave people better than I found them, even if they don't agree with me. And here's the wild, and this is going to shock you. I can still be friends with people that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like, I can end up going to have dinner with people. I can
we don't agree on everything, but we
don't agree.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to have dinner with you and have a bourbon with you. And boy, did I say that on? Maybe we'll edit that out. but that's the, like, this is the mindset that I think people need to come to realize, is that I think we have more in common than we realize.
We do, yeah.
People
definitely
have more
do.
in common than you realize if you just sit down and listen.
Yeah.
And not listen to respond,
right?
But listen to hear.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. And I love doing that. I think that's the great thing about being at the paper was learning how to be a better listener, because you have to. If you're not good at listening, then you have a hard time.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears.
Go for it.
Because we've beat this dead horse into the ground. What's next for you?
Going full time back to ministry,
Okay.
doing full time ministry, going back to the Rock. Yeah.
Okay.
So me and my wife Christine, she's been doing. So my dad retired, and she's been filling in for him and running the place.
I saw her drive one of the vans. She didn't see
Yeah.
me, but I saw her in the van, and I was like.
So she's been running the place, and we, as it got harder at the paper, and just I got more disenfranchised with the directions that the leadership was taking, and I was like, and I felt like it was harming. I just didn't want to be a part of that system, Yeah. And so she's like, great, because I want you to come back and work at the Rock. So it was like, I think it's time.
She's anything like my wife. My wife, she's like, I can criticize you because I'm your wife.
Yeah.
But if anybody else criticizes you, I want to rip their legs.
Yeah. And so it was basically go back because my dad's retired, and I'm just going.
I enjoyed that podcast you did with your dad the other day.
Oh, yeah.
That
was fun.
That was good.
And then also on top of that, not being at the paper frees me up to be more involved in the community in ways that I want to be, and just because there is a level of that position that you hold, you have to refrain from certain things, certain activities, certain things that I felt like was holding me back from really contributing, helping in the community. Yeah. And so full-time ministry, and I'm going to go help my wife support her.
Fantastic.
And I'm excited. So
that's cool.
And I also need a break.
Are you going on vacation somewhere?
I did. I went on lots of vacations this year. And I think that was part of the motivation of why I need to get out. Because like every time I was gone on vacation, I was like, except for I went to Ireland, and I was in Ireland, and the water contaminated E. coli thing happened when I was in Ireland. I'm like, literally
fell apart.
It did.
24 hours.
24 hours. It went crazy, and I'm like texting and coordinating and like trying to get information to my editor so she could get it written about while I was in Ireland, because I was like, I'm like sending Facebook messages, like trying to coordinate in Ireland because people needed to know what was going on.
I did not know you were in Ireland.
Yeah. So, but it was great not having to deal with the news, and I often felt like the world was on my shoulders just because that's my parents raised me to be that way, to care about, like, no job is just a job, and
Amen.
And so
that's my mindset is there's no such thing as a secular sacred divide for a Christian. Everything's sacred. God's got you here. Acts chapter 17, right? You're here for a purpose, on purpose, right? You're here for a purpose,
right?
And when you have that mindset, I think you do your job better, right? You're all those things, right?
I agree, yeah. So. And that was hard because my faith is very important to me, and the newspaper world is extremely secular,
anti-faith.
I mean, I don't know. You could say it. Say it. I mean, there are people that I met that were very important to the faith, and there were a few times that I got to write from, like, talking about faith and religion, like when I was working on and those articles I loved writing because I understand the perspective, and I understand the worldview, and I understand
that's the reason I wrote what I wrote.
Right.
That's my ethos.
Yeah.
Like, that's who I am.
I would love
separate that.
I would love to write for a Christian publication.
What if we just started one? You want to start one with me?
Depends.
Let's just.
Do I get to write the counter, whatever you write?
No, we'll have Kelly Becker do that.
So.
That's fun. I love that. Good for you.
And also, but really, what I really want to do, I'm putting this out there, what I really want to do is I want to travel to, like, the persecuted church and document and photograph that. That's what I would really love to do.
Contact VOM.
I don't know anyone at VOM.
I know a couple folks.
But anyways, that's what I love to do. I got a passport. I'll travel.
Come on.
I'll pretend to be whatever you want me to. And I can pretend to be a journalist because I am a journalist.
I'll tag VOM in this podcast, and they'll say, "Hey, listen, Andy wants to do these things."
I would love to do that. That's what always been my heart.
Photography is winning awards.
It is, yeah. It's award winning.
So I mean, you can say that because you're winning awards.
Well, I mean, that's what I always felt like the reason the Lord got me, because the Lord got me into this job, into the newspaper. Like, it was completely the Lord guided me here because I was in ministry and loving it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Lord was leading me, well, because there's a greater purpose with your journalism. And then in my photography I love doing photography, and I feel like that would be the thing I feel like I'm called to do.
Cool.
So we'll see. I'll just let the Lord open the doors.
Come on.
If that's the way he wants me to go, I just go where he opens.
There you go.
And then when he shuts it in my face, I'm like, okay, that was the wrong door.
That was the wrong door. Don't do that again.
Don't do that again.
Stop trying to crawl through the window, son.
I know. I've done that a couple times. We have all been there.
I've been there, done that. Well, cool. Well, this has been fun. This has been a longer podcast than normal, but I wanted to just let you just share about what you've been going through and what your experience has been, what it was like, and what your plans were for the future. So I appreciate you coming on the show just to share your perspective and where you came from. And I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm sure I made a lot of people. I'm sure I made a lot of people mad. I apologize. Say something in the comments below. Is that what you said?
Well, if we need to, we'll just listen. It's my podcast. I can turn the comments off. So.
No, I never want to limit free speech.
No, I mean,
I'm a proponent of that.
Sure, I'm not anti-free speech, but yeah.
Tell me what you really think about me.
Yeah,
I've heard it.
I love you.
I love you too.
So that's you wanted to know. Inquiring minds wanted to know. There we are.
But stay tuned. I'm working on some stuff.
I would like to write. I was going to say you're working on some writing things.
I'm working on some writing things. I'm going to try to write some stuff that I didn't get to cover based on other
So maybe you're going to
corporate reasons.
So maybe you're going to launch your own newspaper.
Yeah, it's very not a newspaper.
The Dossett
Gazette. The Dossett Report.
The Dossett Report.
Dossett.
It's not the Drudge Report.
Not the Drudge Report.
But
the Dossett Report. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. You got that trademark yet?
Working on it.
Okay. All right. Well, see if we can work that out. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
See ya.